Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of ABA with Vic. Now before we start, go ahead and like that subscribe button so every Sunday you can get updates of ABA with Vic. This week's topic is reinforcement. Reinforcement is really important in ABA. So reinforcement is the principle used in ABA that is nearly used in all behavior change procedures. In ABA, reinforcements are used to increase the likeliness of the behavior occurring again in the future. In other words, support the behavior so we could see more of the appropriate behaviors that we would like to see. Reinforcement is used everywhere, in classrooms, in the workplace, anywhere. When working with an individual with autism, reinforcements are the things that are actually going to help you increase positive behavior and decrease maladaptive behavior. Reinforcement could be anything. It could be from attention, it could be edibles, toys, money, anything that you could possibly think. Reinforcement is really important in ABA. There are two types of reinforcement: positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. First, let me start off by defining what is positive and what is negative in the terms of ABA. Positive for reinforcement means that you're actually giving something. In reinforcement, negative just means that you're taking away something. With positive and negative, it doesn't mean that it's a good thing or a bad thing. We often assimilate positive to be something really good and then negative to be something bad or negative. This is not the case in ABA. You might ask yourself, what is a reinforcement? A reinforcement could be anything. It could start off by attention, a toy, money, and many things. Let's find out how something can become a reinforcer. Now let's remember that reinforcement is used to increase the likeliness of appropriate behavior to happen again in the future. So there are 4 requirements to make an item a reinforcer. The first one is deprivation and satiation. Deprivation means not having access to an item, and satiation means having too much access to an item. Deprivation helps other individuals motivate them to work for something. Let's say, for example, you're working with a child who really likes chips. Now, something you might want to do is not give the child access to chips during the entire day. When directing a child to complete an activity, you can use the chips, now that he's been deprived from the chips all day, as a motivator for him or her to complete the activity. After that, you will give them the chips after completing the activity. And by using deprivation, you can have the child comply even more. Now for satiation, again, this means when the child or the individual has too much of the item. Now with satiation is the complete opposite of deprivation. Satiation means that the child or the individual has already too much of the item that he wanted. Now the second requirement for a reinforcer is the immediacy, which means how fast you give the reinforcer to the child. This is very important when teaching a new skill to a child. Give them reinforcements immediately. These reinforcements are supposed to be given in about half a second to a second so the child can get praise immediately. When the child is given the reinforcement immediately, the child will continue to comply and thus complete the activity. The third requirement for the reinforcer is the size. Now, depending on the activity or the instruction, you have to ration the size of the reinforcer. Say, for example, someone asks you, hey, can you wash my car? If you wash my car, I'll give you $5. Because the amount we're going to be given is so small, we might not be compelled to actually complete the activity. By this, you might not be motivated to wash someone's car because you're just receiving $5. Now, if someone says, hey, I'll give you $40 if you wash my car. By this, because the size is bigger of the money, we might be compelled to complete the activity, which is washing the car. One thing you want to consider with reinforcement is to remember the size of the reinforcement. When working with parents or working with individuals, I often see a lot of parents give too much reinforcement to the child, eventually having the child satiated. When this happens, if you direct the child to complete another sentence, they might not want to anymore. Why? Because they already ate too much of the crackers. They're already full. They're no longer interested in working for those goldfish crackers. Say, for example, you have a child working for goldfish crackers. Let's say they complete the activity, and depending on the activity, if it was a lot of work or small work, you should give them a rational amount of reinforcement. Say, for example, they completed writing 1 sentence, and this was easy for them. Perhaps you could just give them 1 or 2 goldfish. Again, depending for the child. If the task of writing a sentence is really difficult, then you want to praise a little bit more and provide a little bit more goldfish. So in this instance, you could give about 5 goldfish crackers. So we always have to be careful about how much reinforcement we give. You also don't want to give too little of the reinforcement, because otherwise it's not reinforcing the behaviors that we want to target. The last step of the reinforcer is the contingency. Contingency meaning how often you get it. You provide reinforcement every single time that the student complies. Let's say, for example, an individual has a math problem sheet that has 10 problems. Contingency for this example would look like you giving a reinforcement or a goldfish, for example, every single time the student completes the assignment or each math problem. One of the important things I would like to highlight in this video is the reinforcement. Reinforcement always change. I had parents ask me, my child usually works for French fries and he's no longer interested in French fries. And then they asked me, what can I do? One piece of advice that I offer you is to find out other things that he's interested in. Maybe he doesn't like French fries anymore. Maybe he likes chips. Maybe he likes toys. Maybe he likes a particular type of candy. So remember the 4 elements that makes a reinforcement: the deprivation and satiation, the contingency, the size, and then the immediacy. By keeping these things in mind, you will create or you will have a strong reinforcer. But also remember that reinforcers change all the time. There are 2 types of reinforcement. One, positive reinforcement. And then the second one, negative reinforcement. In ABA, positive means that you're giving something. And negative means that you're taking away something. Reinforcements can be tangible and not tangible, meaning physical or non-physical. Say, for example, a toy, that's a physical. But attention is non-physical. So what is positive reinforcement? Reinforcement works in a 3-term contingency. The 3-term contingency is the ABC. The A stands for antecedent, or what happened before the behavior. B, the behavior itself. And C, the consequence. What happened after the behavior. Typically, reinforcers are supposed to be given after the behavior, which is the consequence. An example of positive reinforcement is, let's say you have a child who brings good grades this semester. You want to reinforce the behavior, meaning the behavior of getting good grades constantly. What you're going to do is provide a reinforcement. This could be money, toys, attention, anything that is reinforcing to the child. By providing the reinforcement, you're working to increase the behavior, which is getting good grades, to occur in the future as well. By doing this, you can ensure that the behavior of getting good grades can happen in the future. But let's remember the contingency. We have to be contingent on reinforcements. With the example of the good grades, you want to keep continuing reinforcement throughout when the child brings in good grades, so we can promote this appropriate behavior to occur again in the future. Now with negative reinforcement, what we're going to do is take away something so we could increase the behaviors to happen again. An example could be, if you have a child who has a difficult time completing 5 math problems, you could say, okay, do 4 and I'll take away 1 math problem. By doing this, you are motivating the student to complete their work by taking off something. And by doing this, you're motivating the student to complete the work. So once again, for this week, we went over reinforcement and positive and negative reinforcement. We also learned the 4 steps of having a reinforcement. We also learned about positive reinforcement and how it's used to promote appropriate behavior. We also learned about negative reinforcement, which is taking off something so we could continue promoting appropriate behavior. Once again, if you have a question, you can leave me a comment down below, or you can email me at ABAwithVic@gmail.com, or you can tweet me at twitter.com/ABAwithVic. And as always, thank you for watching.